Rav Yerucham Levovitz was one of the greatest mashgichim in pre-World War II Europe. He was born before World War I, lived up until just before World War II. He was mechanech, he educated some of the greatest teachers, some of the greatest mashgichim that ever lived. Rav Shlomo Vogel was one of his students. Rav Scheinberg was another one of his students, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people who he affected, who have now affected thousands and thousands. He was not only a master of chinuch and of bringing out people's personal greatness, but he was a master at systematizing that approach. He gave shmoozes over the period of about 2 years in Mir, which were recorded. That transcript became the Das Chochma Umusar, which is one of the greatest reservoirs today of information about how to help a human being achieve their potential. Rav Yerucham was a key link in the chain of Masor, in the chain of tradition. He is a student of Reb Simcha Zissel Zayv of Kelm, known as the Altar of Kelm. And Reb Simcha Zissel, of course, was one of the 5 great students of Arisra Salanter, who was a student of Rav Zundel of Salant, who was a student of Rav Chaim of Volozhin, who was a student of the Vilna Gaon. And so you have this direct line of information coming straight down, really from Sinai, and then being expressed with extraordinary clarity. The book is thrilling. It turns the entire world upside down and then presents it in a fashion which is so compelling you can't say no. The book really follows one theme, which is how does one gain control over one's own nature, and then how does one use that spiritual transformation that happens when you gain control over your nature to help others gain control over their nature. And these two themes, the idea of gaining control over your nature and then affecting the rest of the world through that, that is the theme of the entire book. Rav Yerucham starts off the book with a very provocative statement. He says, people can't change. That whoever you are, that's who you're going to be forever. At which point you really want to throw your hands up, because the whole reason you opened up the book was to learn how to change. And then he throws in the punchline, which is that really it's impossible for people to change. For someone to change, it would take a miracle. And then he lays out the 30 or so steps that one needs to take in order to actually create the miracle of character change. And for example, one of the things he explains is that character change is impossible if you're locked entirely into the natural world. In some way, you need to reach out of the natural world and grab a hold of the supernatural. And he says one of the ways to access the supernatural is through the study of Torah. So he explains that one of the first steps that one must take if one wants to actually make these changes is one must access Torah study in some way in their life that plugs them into 220 volts, and at that point they can actually start to fly. This is really an unparalleled opportunity, because generally the Das Chachma Musar and other books of that level of sophistication are completely inaccessible to those people who do not have a strong yeshiva background. And even those with a strong yeshiva background generally have difficulty accessing it unless they have a Masor, unless they learn from somebody who really understands how to learn the book. So this is, in a way, a historical event. I don't know if anyone has ever set out to present the Das Chachma Musar in clear, understandable English in its entirety to a large audience. I don't know if I'm actually qualified to teach the Sefer. I'm sure that I really don't understand more than a small percentage of what's really happening in the book. But I did merit to hear a large section of the book explained to me by Rav Shlomo Vogel, who heard it directly from Rav Yerucham Levovitz. And as Rav Vogel explained it to us, I remember we took vigorous notes trying to understand the concepts. The book really is not just for people who are interested in being mechanech others. It's for anybody who wants to grow, because the book spreads out in such clear terms and in such an organized fashion exactly how midos change, what somebody has to do to bring forth their potentials. We all have habits that we want to break. We all have obstacles that we've been trying to overcome in life and have had difficulty with. And this book puts the key into your hand. You just read the book, put the key in, and turn, and you can make the changes you really have been dreaming about making. There are prerequisites for the course, but they're not what one might expect. You don't need to know Hebrew, you don't need to know Aramaic, but you have to be somebody who has turned inward, who has thought about oneself, who notices one's strengths, who notices one's weaknesses. You have to be somebody who's introspective, and you have to have the courage to actually step forward and do something about it, which requires hard work over a long period of time. This course is not limited to people of any religious background. A person could be Orthodox, they can be conservative, they can be Reformed, they could be not religious entirely, and the concepts are self-evident. People will realize right away that it's true, and anybody can really use these ideas. There are practical exercises that will be given out in the course. The exercises apply equally to men and to women. It applies to children. They can use it in their households. They can also try it out in the school if there's teachers who are watching the video. Anybody can really take these exercises and play with them and see how they work. The course is going to be given once a month. It'll be given in Los Angeles live, and the course will also be available online. It's available in Los Angeles to men and to women. We have a men's section and a women's section. And for those people who are going to be watching it on video, we encourage husbands and wives to both watch it, or fiancés to buy the series for their fiancés so they can watch it together. At the end of the course, a person will understand why they react in certain ways, what drives them, what midos are, how midos change. They'll understand better what's going on with their spouse, with their children, certainly with their students. They'll understand how to better interact with others. They'll understand better how to help others and themselves grow.